We have some major updates on Jakob Poeltl's future with the Toronto Raptors. Of course, all eyes have been on the trade packages and proposals for Kevin Durant in recent weeks, but now we have some major updates regarding Jakob Poeltl's future with the team and Masai Ujiri's plans for Jakob Poeltl for the Raptors center moving forward in the future, whether or not the team acquires Kevin Durant or not. So we're going to break down what these updates are, what the latest is on this whole Kevin Durant saga, as the Raptors have not been ruled out of it just yet, and what the latest has been on this whole entire pursuit of the offseason as we enter this year's NBA draft. So lots of stuff to break down out in this video, but folks, you guys have been crushing it, hitting that subscribe button. We're trying to follow whether or not the Raptors are going to land that big fish or not. That has been widely reported over the course of this offseason, so I appreciate every single one of you joining along for the ride. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you've been enjoying the daily content, but let's dive into it, because there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz about Jakob Poeltl and his future with this Raptors team. Some reporters have brought up, hey, Jakob Poeltl, it's going to be a combination of Quickley, RJ Barrett, Poeltl, the 9th pick. That's what the Phoenix Suns are asking for. That's what's been put out to the media, but those have essentially been shut down as of late by Michael Grange, as well as was backed by Mark Stein in recent reports. So let's take a look at it, as essentially the reports that the Raptors are monitoring his situation are credible in regards to Kevin Durant. But to cut through some of the smoke, multiple sources have confirmed to me that Raptors center Jakob Poeltl would not be a part of any deal. However unlikely a Raptors-Suns deal might be, centered around Kevin Durant. The Suns were asking for Poeltl at the trade deadline and got a firm no back then, but that hasn't stopped them from asking again. So firstly, we have some updates. So the Phoenix Suns were interested in Jakob Poeltl at this year's trade deadline. Now, we heard, obviously, the buzz about the Raptors acquiring Brandon Ingram leading into the trade deadline, and then we actually ended up getting Brandon Ingram. So there's rumors leading up to it. We acquired Brandon Ingram. We didn't hear much smoke about the Raptors' interest in Kevin Durant. So this is actually fairly interesting. The Raptors, dating back to the trade deadline, were involved out there in that sort of last couple-day stint before the trade deadline and when the Suns were shopping Kevin Durant across the NBA. So the Suns wanted Poeltl. The Raptors were not willing to give him up there. So that is that, and then we also had some updates in terms of the plans going forward as well. So the more likely scenario is the Raptors reach a contract extension with Jakob Poeltl sooner rather than later, with a structure and timing designed to offer the club flexibility as they build out a competitive roster. Poeltl is eligible for a 3-year, $88 million extension if he opts into the final year of his current deal, or a 4-year, $121 million extension if he opts out and signs a new contract starting this season. Opting into the final year of his current deal at $19.5 million would give the Raptors some additional cap flexibility for any acquisitions they might want to pursue this summer. So now this is very, very interesting, because we've heard the buzz, and essentially a lot of the theories about a Kevin Durant trade and a move actually happening with KD was, you have RJ Barrett, you have Jakob Poeltl up for extensions coming very, very soon. And Masai Ujiri is not interested, and they're too far apart on these extensions. Acquiring KD not only gives you a year of excitement, Kevin Durant on your team, and he's still been very, very good. Short-term Kevin Durant is a huge, acquisition for this team. 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. 43% of the three-point line, 50% on corner threes. KD is phenomenal. 36 years old is a question mark about his future, but just in one season, he is a phenomenal basketball player. So if you aren't interested in giving one of those extensions to Jakob Poeltl, or you're talking to his representatives and there's just not that much alignment, that's when you can be like, hey, this is kind of like a salary, supreme salary dump. You acquire Kevin Durant and you say, hey, we see if we can win a championship. We see if we can make a push in the Eastern Conference. See if you want to stay. If you don't, whatever. You have $50 million coming off the books in free agency next offseason. So that was the pitch a lot of people were throwing out in terms of making sense trading Jakob Poeltl, even though talent-wise it would suck. And then you'd have to have some other options. You'd have to be almost assured you get Common Malwatch or another big man somehow, some way, whether it be through the draft or free agency. But that's neither here nor there. The Toronto Raptors apparently don't want to trade Jakob Poeltl, and the expectation is this team is going to move forward with a contract extension. Now, looking at those options, looking at the pursuits, the avenues for this, a 3-year, $88 million extension if he opts into the final year of his contract makes sense. I think that is a contract that you could definitely live with if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. Roughly around $30 million per year. It's expensive, but for a guy the caliber of a Jakob Poeltl, who's averaging 15, 10, 3, a phenomenal defensive player, we see the impact that he has. This Raptors team is always cooked when he's not out there on the floor. Now, of course, that could be a factor of, hey, there's no other centers on this team, and Oler Shamshay is still young. He dealt with some injuries and stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Jakob Poeltl is probably, that is the price range for a center the caliber of Jakob Poeltl out there in the NBA. Where it gets dicey, where it gets tricky, where it gets, is if he opts out and then you sign a 4-year, $120 million contract there for Big Yak. Now, again, that is a contract that still is, it's still solid, right? You look at this, it's still around that $30 million per year range and stuff, and maybe if the cap's going up, it's that, but you're locked into a lot of years between Jakob Poeltl and Immanuel Quickley. I'm not saying it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but that does, lead to some concerns, lead to some looking forward into the future. How are things going to look if you're out there at that point, if you're out there at that number in terms of move, flexibility, and all that type of stuff? So having him still at the $19.5 million mark next season, and then, going forward, getting on the caps higher, and the team's already in position, you make some moves this offseason, that might make some sense rather than like an opt-out, a 4-year deal out there in that mix. So that's kind of where my head's at in terms of Jakob Poeltl extension. I don't think that's, some people are looking at this like, hey, that's a crazy overpay for Jakob Poeltl. I wouldn't fall into that bucket, but it is a pay increase. It is an expensive contract, and the Raptors would have to be in a position to compete, to contend if that deal is going to go down. I still think it would be tradable. I still think it would be a move that is, capable of the Raptors not plaguing this team for the future. So that's the current updates on Jakob Poeltl, but Kevin Durant is obviously the name a lot of people are looking at and seeing what's the latest updates on this. Well, if we take a look at some of the news, so the Raptors and the Houston Rockets are still very involved in Kevin Durant trade talks, according to Jake Fisher. Now, KD has not put the Raptors on his preferred destinations on the teams he's willing to go to, so that seemed to have derailed some of the steam that's come out over the week, but that is, the update from Jake Fisher, so we're not, out of the mix because, we're not being brought up by Shams. But basically, the teams that the Raptors are contending with are the Miami Heat, the Rockets, and these different teams. So we have some updates on what those offers look like as well. So teams around the league believe the Miami Heat are close to finish line in regards to acquiring Kevin Durant. Although the two sides are not right now at the finish line in terms of trade talks, one player that can get them there would be Kel'el Ware, a rookie standout from Miami's front court who is a giant 7-foot wingspan, yada, yada, yada. We remember the Raptors' pursuit of Kel'el Ware in the NBA draft last season. So he's the sticking point, but basically, according to Mark Stein, the Miami Heat have remained firm in their stance in not including Ware in Kevin Durant trade talks. Miami is said to be firmly against including standout rookie Ware if in offers for KD. Without Ware, a theoretical trade, Phoenix is presumed to be seeking future first-round draft capital from the Miami Heat to help deliver Kevin Durant to South Beach. So it's either a lot of picks or it's Ware. So that's what's going on with the Miami Heat. So they're close on these trade packages, but nothing is imminent because the Heat, same way, the Raptors don't want to give up Jakob Poeltl in any trade talks. The Miami Heat do not want to give up Ware, who is younger, who's, the Heat are in an interesting position as a franchise. It's that's a guy that they don't want to give up. So that's what's going on there in the Kevin Durant talks from Miami's side of things. But we also have the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets are reportedly offering Jalen Green and the 10th pick for Kevin Durant and have refused to add players like Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Reed Shepard, who the Suns have had interest in, according to Brett Siegel. So Jalen Green, the 10th pick, that's the type of offer that's going around there, and the Rockets have not been willing to part of any of those three. Now, Cam Whitmore is not named in this situation. I feel like he's a guy that should be in these trade talks because he's high value, high upside, but is not getting a ton of run with the Houston Rockets. But it's been widely noted that the Phoenix Suns have zero interest in acquiring Jalen Green. So if that's the case, and that's the reality, then there's no real avenue, unless there's a third team that would be interested in acquiring Jalen Green, there's no real avenue for making one of these moves happen. So, the Rockets, they'd have to figure out some sort of 3-team trade scenario in order to land Kevin Durant, in order to make some things happen. And, I've seen some people, hey, why don't the Raptors go after Jalen Green? He'd be cool, but I don't know. The Raptors have a ton of guys at that shooting guard position. RJ Barrett, again, he'd be on the way out in one of these trade packages, assumingly. But you have Gradey Dick, you have Jacoby Walter. You have a ton of guys that play that position that are a lot less expensive than Jalen Green's about to be. So it's, that's the whole situation that you're dealing with there, out there along those lines. But the final thing I kind of wanted to take a look at is the buzz, because there's been a lot of hate in regards to people saying Jakob Poeltl is a holding point in terms of Kevin Durant trade, and people just around the league don't understand how good Jakob Poeltl is. And this is my guy Sean, out there on Sixers Digest, insider out there for the Philadelphia 76ers, but like a proper insider and stuff. But I don't know. People be disrespected Jakob Poeltl way too much. I'm sure there's a lot of people in our comments that should be like, hey, deal away Jakob Poeltl. Why on earth are you not trading him in any of these trade talks? Put some respect on Jakob Poeltl's name. He is a legitimate guy. He is a legitimate center, and I'm making it known. I view Jakob Poeltl as a top 10 center out there in the NBA. The way he's effective on the defensive end, the way he can facilitate his touch around the basket. He had a really good year for the Toronto Raptors last year, and we know that big, proper centers around the NBA are tough to come by. So put some respect on Jakob Poeltl's name. Stating that here. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys are the best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.